Ow! Ow. Remind me never to trust a half-drunk mad scientist again. What day is it? Wait, June 25th? Dang it, I have been gone for a long while. And I missed the anniversary. Well, not gonna let a good concept go to waste. Anyway, I hope I can get this one right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the fantastical, fascinating, fictional, Phantasmagoria. I, kinda made up that last bit. But here is where we talk about the most wonderful of shows, be it the wonders of Japan's animation studios, some of Hollywood's greatest hits, or even just a simple TV show. We go in depth about what makes them tick and talk about some of the aspects that makes them fascinating. And this week, we're doing something special. Talking about one of the best, the weirdest, the most interesting cartoons ever to come out in the last 10 years. Let's get weird with Gravity Falls. Good Lord, how does that man talk in that voice for entire episodes? Seriously, next time I do anything joke-wise like that related to the show, I'm doing it as Seuss. Regardless, yes folks, we're talking about Gravity Falls. For those who don't know this show, first off, why? But to give it a quick rundown, Gravity Falls is a Disney show created back in 2012 by Alex Hirsch following the adventures of twins Mable and Dipper Pines, who are forced to spend their summer with their great Uncle Stan. It's as they explore the titular town of Gravity Falls that they find both paranormal events and creatures from both fantasy and the supernatural living within the woods. It's considered to be one of the greatest shows of its time, and I honestly agree with them, putting it up there with the likes of Avatar: The Last Airbender, Samurai Jack, and Gargoyles. But why is it so great? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about for today, focusing on just what made this show tick and why it's so loved. I think one of the first things to really focus upon when it comes to Gravity Falls is perhaps the actual setting. Unlike so many other shows and movies that tend to just throw the characters into brand new worlds that we're having to learn alongside them, we're instead given the twist of the settings being mostly normal to begin with and having a little bit of weirdness about. It all starts with something simple as Dipper finding an odd book in the woods, each of its pages detailing something weird and unusual within the boundaries of the town. And it's with his sister's antics that he learns that there's truth in the journal, having to deal with her new boyfriend that he fears is a zombie. This is how most of the earlier episodes of Gravity Falls actually play out, with the situations being fairly realistic in terms of how they might happen in real life, until that one little aspect of the supernatural comes in and tosses everything on its head. One of my favorite examples would be Fight Fighters, in which Dipper comes across an arcade cabinet that, after punching in a special code, actually brings his main character, Rumble McSkirmish, to life. The rest of the episode is dealing with a character whose understanding is limited to that of an old video game playing out in an otherwise realistic world. But it isn't just the interesting and unique ways that the fantasy and supernatural elements of Gravity Falls are brought into the show. Oh no, it's also the storytelling that we get within the show itself. Now, as you might have realized at this point, I am someone who loves serialized storytelling in media, or basically anything that tells a bigger story over multiple parts. Part of this comes from my enjoyment of books that I loved to read as a kid, but it also comes from seeing some series fall flat because they didn't have their stories connect in any meaningful way. Gravity Falls balances this like no other show I've ever seen. While it does have an overall storyline and plot elements that are connected from one episode to the next, and character growth that doesn't require them to learn the same lessons every week, most episodes of the show could actually be watched out of order, and you wouldn't miss too much. It's actually amazing how little you need to know for any given episode to make sense of it, and yet you get rewarded for paying attention to all the little details within it. Speaking of the little details, how do you go about making a TV show based on mysteries and weirdness into something engaging for the audience and allows them to play along? You give them a mystery to follow in the real world. During the entire series of Gravity Falls, there are cryptograms throughout the episodes that the fans could decode using a variety of ciphers. Now, most of these when decoded were simple things, often referencing the episodes in question by either doubling down on a joke or doing little winks to what inspired the episode itself. That is, until they started being used in the episodes proper instead of just at the end, enticing eagle-eyed viewers into figuring out just what they mean for the episode and the series as a whole. Believe me when I say that some of these give hints to massive story elements that you will see later down the line. Of course, what kind of show would this be without excellent characters? And our main cast is actually very unique in their own rights. Dipper and Mabel already start off as interesting main characters simply for the fact that they're twins, and twins usually aren't the focal point of a series, especially when it comes to animation. Usually, if you see a pair of twins in a cartoon, they're side characters at best. That's not even taking into consideration their respective personalities either. Dipper offers a unique blend of your classic nerdy kid. You know the kind, always having his nose in his book, thinks too much, and the kind who would make lists to plan out all of the little details about his life. And yet, this is also the same kid who will throw himself into an adventure if it involves one of the odd events of the falls and allows him to learn more about the world about him. Think of him as a young scientist who specializes in field work. Mabel in many ways is your stereotypical cartoony girly girl, a love of glitter, the color pink, and more than a little boy crazy. But then you get the fact that she'll also be the first one to fight, should the need for fighting actually happen. This isn't even going to the fact that she brings her own brand of weirdness that sets her apart from other characters, doing things like wearing nachos for earrings, or folding a treasure map she and her brother are trying to decipher in one episode into a paper hat. It's an interesting balancing act for her to be such an oddball character in the show, and yet she's also the one to help bring Dipper back down to earth when his own adventures overwhelm him. And then we get to the final major character in the show, the twins' great uncle Stan Pines. What can I say about Stan here that does him any justice? I mean, first off, he's 100% a con man. Think of that for a moment. He is a main character and a protagonist at that of a Disney animated series and is legitimately shown on screen doing things like forging money and talking about fleecing customers. When's the last time you saw that kind of character as a good guy in anything animated, much less something by the House of Mouse? That's also not even mentioning all the other smaller bit characters that are so unique that, through their design, voices, and actions that they take in the series, that you can always pick them out in a crowd, be it from the local diner owner Lazy Susan, wannabe reporter Totally Determined, or even the guy who just shows up who wears the free pizza shirt. When Gravity Falls wants to go out and give us a unique character, it hits them out of the park. Of course, there's so many characters, events, and episodes that I would love to talk about, but if there's one series that I wouldn't want to spoil for anyone, it would be this one. And while I know not everyone who watches these shows are new to the topics we're talking about, I'm going to hold off talking anything spoiler-based for Gravity Falls until the next time we decide to cover it on Fascinating Fiction. Unless you guys would really rather me just actually go super deep into spoils from the get-go from this point onward, though. I'll let you guys decide for something like that in the future if I should just go whole hog into spoilers for the subjects I'm talking about. If you're still on the fence about this series and haven't really decided on if you would want to watch it, there are 3 episodes I'd highly suggest watching that would give you a good understanding of how this show is like and some of the hints of the deeper elements within it. Those episodes would be The Inconvenient Scene, Summerween, and Carpet Diem. Not only do they give you a good taste of what exactly Gravity Falls would give you in terms of weirdness, how intense the show could get, and overall entertainment, but there are also hints to the rest of the greater picture here that the series has. I think the final thing that'll leave you all off on enticing you to watch Gravity Falls is perhaps the greatest feeling that the show gives you. More than anything else, it's about a summer vacation with these characters, where things like school and jobs are a thing to be worried about for the future. It's about living the life, exploring all the interesting things about your local neighborhood, to see what new developments could be around the corner, and to make an experience that will stick with you for the rest of your life. So many other shows, be they cartoon or otherwise, will often promise to give you an adventure to remember, and I feel like Gravity Falls is one of the few that will actually be able to do well on that promise. Well then, I hope I was able to do some justice for the series. I'm definitely going to be talking about it again in the future, but for now, I need to go call a certain mad mayor I know and see if he can prevent me from dealing with that scientist again. But with all that said, I hope I've done a good job to entertain you, and I'll do my best to do so again in the future. Hopefully you'll follow along with my content by subscribing and doing all the other things that gives us YouTubers life. If you wish to support me a bit more, I do have a Patreon where you can get access to bonus content. But until next time, stay frosty.